This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is Not America's Sweetheart, Davian.
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
Peasants and commoners, this is your king, BMT, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today, the trusted choice for interviewing all of your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J., and it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with the King of the Monarchy, Brandan Michael Thomas, BMT.
I'm mildly impressed. Very nice. How are you?
Well, we do it big here on Wrestling With. How is the king today?
Your king is doing just fine. Enjoying the splendors of his castle, his queen, and his prince and princesses, so I can't complain.
And where can the peasants see the king perform next, event-wise?
So this Saturday in Fairhaven, Connecticut, I will be competing alongside the Queen of New England, Arial, at Bloodsweat Tears Wrestling. You can find that information out on their socials or my socials, the BMT88 on X and Instagram. And then next week in Johnson, Rhode Island for RWA, it is the finals of our Monarchy Royal Invitational Tournament, which will crown the first ever winners of that tournament. It will be myself and my queen, obviously, the Monarchy, versus AJP and Big Juicy. So really excited about that. So that's where you can find the Monarchy over the next 2 weeks.
Perfect. And where can we find you on social media and merchandise?
So social media, you can find me on Instagram at the BMT88. Same for X or Twitter. Facebook, you can find me just, a quick BMT search. You'll find the Facebook page. And then merchandise is always available at the live shows. We always encourage the fans to support local independent wrestling, visit the shows, catch new merchandise. We do our merchandise quarterly, so if you don't get it by the end of the quarter, then we're not going to re-release the shirt. So definitely visit us at the live shows for all of our merchandise.
That's actually a really great way to, sell merchandise quarterly.
Yeah, I forget where there was a website where I was buying shirts from, and they would do quarterly releases. I was like, oh, that's a great idea. It just puts a little more emphasis or sense of urgency on the fact that, hey, I got to get my shirt or else it's gone.
Right. Right, and you don't even have to go looking for it. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox.
Perfect.
Alright, let's get into it. You mentioned the Monarchy Tournament. There's a lot of, big things that pro wrestlers do, but I think that it kind of hits pretty hard when, you get a tournament named after you. What did that kind of mean to you?
So we've been back wrestling full time since about the end of 2022. And quite honestly, I just thought it was going to be something that we're kind of doing for our kids so they could see us wrestle. But we noticed that a lot of opportunities were coming up that we were able to seize and make the most out of. And those are turning into long-term opportunities and spots on rosters that we've worked hard to get on. RWA was a promotion I never worked for in my original run in wrestling, and me and T Phoenix, the owner, were able to get together to be able to do some business. And the growth of RWA has been absolutely amazing over the last year, and I've really had a vested interest in trying to help grow the product alongside T in the locker room. So when I was given the opportunity to have this tournament, have a tournament named after me, it was definitely a full circle moment because, like I said, when we came back, it was only supposed to be a very limited thing, maybe a couple shows, maybe a couple months, maybe through the middle of 2023, then we call it quits. But to now be in a point in, almost halfway through 2025, we have shows named after us. We have tournaments named after us. It's very humbling. And it just goes to show that all the work we put and all the effort we put in pays off on more than one level. Because I'm a firm believer, if you have a show named after you, if you have a tournament named after you, if you have something dedicated on the show to you, or if the company decides to put a belt on you, I think that just is a solidification of all the hard work and all the output that you're putting in.
Now, you kind of, what you did retire in 2017, but, came back in the end of 2021, 2022. How have you compared, that time of that run of your career to this run of your career?
So I was pretty hurt back then. I had a pretty serious back injury in 2012 that kept me on the shelves for the better part of 2.5 years. No, actually 3.5 years. So it was different because my body just wasn't there like I wanted. My mind was there, but my body wasn't. So my body couldn't keep up with my mentality and just kind of my creativity. So, it was definitely not as fun back then because a lot of the things that I wanted to do, I wasn't able to do. And a lot of the responsibilities I wanted to have, I just wasn't ready for them. This time around, I really realized that this could be fun and it also could be beneficial for us and those that we work with. Ultimately, what I'm trying to do is, me and my wife's, our goal is to leave independent wrestling in New England better than it was when we first came back, even if it's a small amount. We just want to contribute. So this run is much different than the previous run because this one, I feel like we're contributing way more and we're making an impact on the wrestling community in New England, but we're also doing our absolute best work. And to kind of show people, yes, we were gone for 6 years through injuries and building a family, but we never lost it. And we just showed the people who say, hey, you still got it. Well, we never lost it. We're as good as we were before, and we're even better than we were before, in my opinion. Honestly, I think we're just hitting our prime. We're just hitting our peak. We have many years ahead of us. So, this is just we're just scratching the surface, so to say.
Hell yeah. And, obviously, a back injury put you out, for a lot of that time. From that to somebody that will definitely give you back injuries, and that is one Masha Slamovich. Can you tell us about being in the ring with Masha?
So that was for Fight Life, which is a promotion I hold very dear to my heart. It's ran by Frankie, who is probably one of the best production people I have ever worked with. Such a professional, just a genius in his field. And then also a very close person to me, Jose Perez, who is a New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer. He's considered family. He's my youngest son's godfather. He is kind of like the main producer and deals with all the talent at the live shows. So they run in Mass, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. So we usually weren't on the Connecticut shows just because of travel issues. And we can never really, I'm not a big fan of being on shows and having to rush there after, the day's plans. I want to be able to get there, kind of settle in, get my mind at ease and get ready for the task at hand.
I got you.
And it was my aunt, my wife was on the show. She was wrestling Janai Kai, and I was only supposed to be managing her. And literally that morning, Jose called me and said, hey, do you want to wrestle tonight? I said, sure. So I'm thinking they're going to put me in some kind of like scramble match or battle royal. And they put me in with Masha, and it was very last minute. It was a great experience. I got knocked out a little bit in that match. Because I'll be honest with you, Masha is a throwback to the women's wrestling back in the day when those girls used to beat the crap out of each other. Like, Masha does not discriminate. Man, woman, whoever you are, she is going to hit you and hit you as hard as she could. And not to mention, I got kicked in the jaw by Janai Kai earlier that night, so I was already seeing stars, and Masha just added to it. But Masha, honestly, she's a very talented wrestler. She's very humble. She was very open to ideas. She was very receptive to any ideas I had. As a matter of fact, when we were, getting ready for the match, I think we just, had a great, non-wrestling conversation back and forth for, half an hour. And then we were like, oh, let's plan our match. So very great person to work with. I enjoyed it. I would love to do it again, just with a little more time to prepare. But let me tell you, I will honestly say there are a very few select people I really want to go in there and have a one-on-one match with and really sink my teeth into. And Masha's in that top 3. So I really, really hope we can get her back to New England, and we can do that again between the two of us.
Hell yeah. And shout out to Masha and Janai Kai, both friends of the show.
Absolutely.
Who are the other two you mentioned, your top 3?
So, I mean, I really want to challenge myself before I get out of here. Like me and my wife talk about all the time, we have more years behind us than we have ahead of us, so we want to maximize our time that we still have wrestling. One person I really want to have a one-on-one match with, Dustin Waller. I think he's an incredible talent. He's from the Connecticut area. I was raised in West Haven, Connecticut. So to see people come out of that state to flourish and the talent they bring is just so it's just so encouraging. And it just makes me so happy to see that area is flourishing talent. When once it used to be very dormant in a sense. I've mixed it up with Miracle Generation in multi-man matches. I mixed it up. Me and my wife had a match with them at Fight Life, a tag team match where it probably is one of the most intense matches I've ever had. But one-on-one with Dustin, I would absolutely love to do that. My other one I want to do, obviously us being with Chaotic Wrestling and that being kind of the main promotion that we do, that we perform at, I would love a Monarchy versus Logan Brothers match. I know they're not active, but I think that if I can get their attention by dumping the titles in the trash can, I think I can do a little bit more to see if I can just get them out of retirement and finally have that match.
Right. And, I mean, never say never.
Absolutely.
I was going to ask you, obviously you and Arial won the Chaotic Tag Team Championships, one of the bigger titles of, the area. I was going to ask, what that kind of meant to you, but considering you drew them in the trash, I imagine not much.
So the physical belts, remember, the physical belts were a representation of, to me, where that division had been over the last couple of years. If you were to ask fans, Cold Fury's Chaotic Wrestling's biggest show, and I dare say the biggest show in New England indie wrestling of the year. If you ask fans what was the tag team title match of Cold Fury 2022, which was in 2024, they'd have a hard time telling you without thinking about it. And that kind of offended me because I was in that division. And I didn't want that division to just be another throwaway on the show because it had such a rich history with such great tag teams. And even most recently, over the last couple of years, a lot of hard work was done to keep that division as prominent as it was. But I just don't think a lot of people saw it that way anymore. Winning those belts meant a lot. Chaotic Wrestling, I grew up on Chaotic Wrestling. Living in Connecticut, I used to sneak away with my buddies, drive up to Lowell to go watch the shows. So I remember the tag team division being a stacked division. I remember that company, being a stacked company. So being able, after being in this business, even with, taking injury breaks since 2006, to being able to, in this new run, get an opportunity to perform for Chaotic Wrestling and then bust our asses to get an actual roster spot, which led us to an opportunity to win those titles. It meant a lot because it was the solidification of that, hey, we're doing the hard work, it's showing, and now we're reaping the fruits of our labor. I mean, yes, we threw the physical Chaotic Wrestling Tag Team Championships in the garbage, and we called out a bunch of teams that held that and kind of pulled their punt card to see if anybody would come out. And, specifically the unit came forward, and, we've been going back and forth with them. But introducing our own version of the Chaotic Wrestling Tag Team Championships, calling it the Tag Team Crown Jewels of the Chaotic Realm, not refusing to call it the Chaotic Wrestling Tag Team Championships, that just showed the accountability and the onus we were taking on that division. It's our division. It's our belt. It's our responsibility to bring this division up from the ashes and make it a focal point. Put it back in the main event of Chaotic Wrestling. And look at what happened at Cold Fury 2025, Cold Fury 23, excuse me. One of the hottest matches on the show was the tag team title match. You had two heavyweight champions, the guys who main evented previous year's Chaotic Wrestling Cold Fury, in wrestling for the tag team championships compared to the year before, where people have a hard time remembering what the tag team title match was. So it means a lot. It just goes to show that our hard work is paying off. And, there's more to come from that.
When you won those titles, was that a moment you took in the moment, or was that something that kind of set in afterwards, like, wow, we did this?
It's set in afterwards, when I went through the curtain and I after talking to Chase and Brian, because I'm still, I've been doing this for a while, but I'm still a firm believer that you don't get better without seeking the feedback of those that are better than you. So every time I step through that curtain, I want to see if, there's anything that they want to point out from the match that I can work on for the next one. Once I did all that, I just sat aside. I crouched down and I looked at the belt, and I just remembered, like, me and my buddies going to Chaotic Wrestling and saying, oh, when we train to become wrestlers, we have to work at Chaotic Wrestling. We have to win the heavyweight title or the tag belts or whatever the case is. So knowing that I won those, knowing that I won them with my wife, and we just became the first ever husband and wife pairing to win those titles, and knowing in the back of my mind that we had these custom one-of-a-kind belts coming, it's something that I was able to soak in after the fact, because being in the ring, I'm still in the moment. I'm still, performing for the people. But once I got that private time and I was able to soak it in and know everything that came before that and everything that was coming now, it was definitely something that I enjoyed very much.
Speaking of which, can you tell us about the advantages and disadvantages of teaming with your significant other?
So, believe it or not, there's way more advantages than there are disadvantages. Mainly speaking, mainly shots. I've been married 18 years. Trust me, I'm well prepared for all this. So the main advantage is, I get quality time with my wife. Us being, career professionals, parents, college students, husband and wife, professional wrestlers, we don't get much alone time. So honestly, a lot of the time that we're going to shows together is our quality time together. Those 2-hour car rides, where we just shoot the breeze and enjoy each other's company, and then have dinner afterwards or lunch before. So it's a huge advantage because it strengthens our bond, and it shows by how we're performing these days and how our chemistry has been amplified over these last 2.5 years. Another advantage is it definitely raises the competition. We're both very competitive people. We compete with others, but we also have a friendly competition within each other because we both hold ourselves individually to high standards and we hold the other to high standards, and we want to make sure that we're performing at those levels. So I'll push her, to do more or be better because I know what's inside of her, and she'll do the same thing to me. So, you kind of have your partner with you, but you also have that friendly rival who will push you because they want to see you do well. But then when they see you do it, they want to kind of push the bar a little bit more. Honestly, disadvantages are we're both stubborn people. We're both stubborn. So a lot of times our ideas will clash and, we'll be like, bickering back and forth. And it's nothing that's unprofessional or out of place. But then you just realize this doesn't happen with the other people because I'm not married to them. Honestly, the only disadvantage is when you're working with two people who want to put out the best possible product and will do what's need to, sometimes they compete with each other and, sometimes you got to get everything back in line, but never do we ever forget that the ultimate objective is to do what's best, not only for the people we're in the ring with, the promotion we're performing for, but most importantly, the fans that pay their hard-earned money to come see them, because we want to build these relationships and connect with these people and build those long-lasting relationships that will allow them to enjoy us and independent wrestling for a long time to come.
You could correct me if I'm wrong here, but Arial was your first ever match, right?
No, Arial was not my first ever match. My first ever match was in Pawcatuck, Connecticut against Mikey Chase. He is the young man that I trained with. He's a childhood friend of mine. Arial was probably my fourth or fifth match. We wrestled one-on-one in October of 2007 for our old home promotion, Defiant Pro Wrestling. It was based out of Waterbury, Connecticut. Her opponent didn't show up. And somebody made the offhanded comment because people were kind of noticing that we were hanging out a bit more and, we were associated a bit more. So people kind of, thought that we were dating, which we weren't at the time. I think like a week later we were. But I had went to go visit her in Rhode Island at one of her friends' houses. And then I drove down to the show with her because I was living in Connecticut at the time. So it was just a little easier for me. And I made the rookie mistake. I didn't bring my gear with me. So I had to drive home to go get my wrestling gear. And I remember the guy, my trainer, Slick Wagner Brown, I'll never forget. That's the first day, like, he just looked at me and shook his head. He was like, "You forgot your gear. The one thing I told you never to do." I'm like, "I'm sorry. I didn't think I was wrestling today. I didn't even think I was showing up." So, yeah, we had a really good match. It was really fun. And, Nikki Rocks came in and gave me a Barbie Crusher afterwards, and she's one of our closest friends now. So, yeah. But she was, Ariel was probably about my fifth match in. And what's funny, a lot of people don't know, I was really hurt. I tore my, I had a partial tear in my rotator cuff from the week before. Ooh. And I didn't get it looked at because my parents were kind of against me wrestling, and I was still 18 years old. So I didn't want to go and tell them, "Hey, I got hurt wrestling." So I kind of just sucked it up and went with it. And to this day, it still hurts, but just one of those things.
I gotcha. I can't imagine it hurt any more than the doghouse match, no?
Oh, jeez. So that was for RWA. That was Legacy 2023. So I forget the numbers, but I was in Providence, Rhode Island, and that was actually an idea that T's son Austin had presented to T, and T had kind of shot it to me thinking, "I don't think BMT is going to go for this, but let's just see." And I said, "Hey, listen, as long as it doesn't, I get a little weirded out when teams break up in one promotion, then down the road they're a team in the other promotion. Right. I kind of like the balance between the promotions, especially since we're this business now there's more exposure to it through social media and YouTube, so people see things rather than back in the day if I performed in Connecticut and broke up with my partner and then went and performed in Jersey, people wouldn't know about the breakup in Connecticut. So I mean, he pitched it to me. It sounded good, and we were really trying to have like that breakout match to show our range. Not only could we, wrestle with the best of them, but we could also entertain. We are professional wrestlers, but an aspect of professional wrestling is entertaining these people. Again, making the connection to convince them to come back. We do that through the art of professional wrestling, but we also have to remember through that art, we're also entertaining. So if we can have entertaining matches that gives the people a different vibe rather than just this hard-hitting pro wrestling match, why the hell not? So yeah, that match was great. That match was, it really, honestly, like after that match, we got a lot more calls than we were used to for shows, and it was pretty cool. I mean, take a weed whacker to the ass and, tongs to the genitalia. Do what you have to do, brother, for an opportunity.
Was that a working weed whacker or a shit weed whacker?
I don't want to expose the mysteries of the business, but all I will tell you is, I had a hard time sitting down for a couple weeks after.
Gotcha. Well, going back to, some singles action, you wrestled, NWA legend Kahagas. Obviously well-respected, well-known name. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, Kahagas is a true veteran through and through. He's he emphasizes the tiny details because the tiny details built over repetition and consistency are the best help for the bigger picture. So I was able to learn a lot from him, focusing on the tiny details, but also focusing on the simplicity of a professional wrestling match, knowing when it's time to give them a little bit and then when it's time to give them more. But always remember that you want them to come back for more, so you can't give it to them all. Kahagas is, I will be completely honest with you, funny story. When I was like a year into the business and I was a pain in the ass 18, 19-year-old. Kahagas pulled me aside when I was getting a little too big for my britches and kind of put me in my place. And that was the first and the last time that ever happened to me in this business, because it humbled me and taught me, hey, listen, you're always being watched. So because you think no one's listening, someone's listening, and someone will address it when you least expect it. So we go way back from then. And he hadn't seen us for years, so he remembered it and we had a good laugh about it. But he's a hard-hitting guy, and let me tell you, I felt it after those matches, and he put me to work. But also, that was one of the first places when I wrestled Kahagas where I held the promotion's heavyweight championship, so they gave me that responsibility. So, it was just one of those things. I enjoyed it. I'd love to do them again 100 more times, so if the opportunity will be there in the future, I'll gladly sign me up for it.
And, there's a difference, between, holding a tag team championship and, holding the world, the heavyweight championship of a company. What did that kind of mean to you to be given that responsibility, considering, coming back from, retirement after 6 years?
So, it was a very, I was very honored to have these promotions have the faith in me and my abilities to be able to go out there and represent the championship of their promotion and be in the main event. It is a very different animal because essentially you're last on the show, so you leave the lasting impression. What you do in that ring, in that match for that championship, not only shows the importance and the value of that championship to the wrestlers, but is also what is going to decide if your customers and your fans come back to see it again. Can I be the dastardly heel that gets ping-ponged around the ring for 20 minutes and then at the last minute I just steal the win for my opponent? And I do it in such a way where the people are like, oh, he was so close. He was always a champion. I'm going to come back next month just to watch BMT get his butt kicked. So, I mean, that responsibility, it's very much so different than just being another face or another wrestler on the card. I take very great pride in that. If a promoter or a booker has the faith in me to put their main championship on me, I'm going to go out there and give them 150%. No different than what I would do for everything, but I understand the gravity of the responsibility. It could be a pressure people aren't used to or they can't stand, but it's very welcoming for me. I love it. I love the responsibility. I love the challenge. I love checking in with the promoter, say, hey, how was the house? Was it bigger than the last show? What did we do? How are ticket sales for the next show? So on and so forth. Because I honestly think a lot of that success is on my shoulders because I'm the primary representative of the company as its champion.
Now, I'm gonna throw a name out there, and you just tell me whatever you'd like to tell me about it.
Okay.
Eddy Kingston.
Oh, Eddy Kingston's the man. Eddy Kingston is he was my guy when I was a teenager. He used to cut the most engaging. When I say connect with an audience, when Eddy Kingston back in the early 2000s would look in a camera and cut a promo, he would connect with you. He didn't look like the stereotypical wrestler. He wasn't what the stereotypical wrestler looked like. But before he ever got into the ring, I was already invested in him. And, having the opportunity to work with him, I would drive from New Bedford, Massachusetts to the Bronx where he was at, pick him up, drive back to the show, which was in Connecticut, bring him back to the Bronx, and then go back home. All that time in the car, Eddy was just very receptive and open. Any question that I had for him, anything, and the one thing about him is he not only gave me advice about the business, but he gave me advice about life. And one of the biggest pieces of advice he gave me was, don't live in the bubble. Remember, you have your wrestling life and you have your real life. And he was like, you have to make sure there's balance between both. And if ever there's a time where one of them is kind of overwhelming or overtaking the other one when it shouldn't, you have to stop and find that balance. Eddy was giving me that advice. I was okay with stepping away. I wasn't in a rush to get back. I wanted to make sure my castle was in order, build my family, build my kingdom, no pun intended, and then I can enjoy wrestling with the, absolute utmost attention. Eddy is, he signed, and I hope he comes back and absolutely tears it up. Eddy is one of those guys where if I can get in the ring with him now, as a performer I am now, I know the kid in 08, 09, 2010 his mind would be blown because that would have been the ideal situation, Eddy Kingston's a man. He was always one of my favorites growing up when I was a teenager. And just to see him succeed based on the fact that he did the work, he never changed himself. He made the people and the industry accept him for who he was. And at the end of the day, he was successful doing so. He was a world champion doing so. So I love the guy, and I wish the best for him. I hope he's back soon from that injury.
I hope so soon. I miss seeing Eddy on Wednesdays.
Absolutely. You and me both.
Weirdly enough, I was actually there when he got injured.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a bummer, man. Yeah, it stinks. It's definitely, Wednesday nights are definitely different if you watch the show because you can tell he's not there.
Right.
But, we just, you don't know what you have until it's gone. And then, it just makes you want it more. So I can't wait till he's back. And, I'm sure it's going to be an exciting return. And I'm sure he's going to get back to what he's doing. And that's, putting on great wrestling, telling great stories, and most importantly, connecting with the audience because that's our job at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah. Now, can you tell us about the Lovetts?
So, the Lovetts was probably the most unexpected thing to ever happen in my career. When we travel with our family. So we're traveling with me, my wife, and 6 children. Sometimes we're fortunate enough where the kids will, not fortunate enough, but we're able to have the kids stay behind with a family member or a babysitter. But the kids have become a part of the locker room. my kids call some of the wrestlers uncle and aunt. Like, they've grown connections with some of the wrestlers. Like, my kids get excited about going to independent wrestling shows as they would going to a mainstream wrestling show. So the opportunity was presented to us by Big Scott. He's a promoter and owner of Rad Pro Wrestling, to do this character that was, you know, an offshoot of our characters, completely separate from the Monarchy. And it was two retired professional wrestlers who decided to get back into the business, but they had to bring their kids because they couldn't find a babysitter. And the best thing about it was, and it was one of the reasons why I think we were able to excel in a lot of places this time around, Scott was just like, this is the idea. Just go and have fun with it. And our first match was an amazing one. You know, the kids, you know, loved it. It got a great reaction, and it just started building from there. I think the love, I know wrestling's a little weird, and people, you know, they get their panties in a bunch when they, you know, see kids in the ring, or they see blow up doll wrestling or Invisible Man wrestling or all that stuff. But again, it's entertainment. So if you can entertain people and they come back and buy a ticket to see what you're doing and enjoy it, then they tell their friends, and the next show there's more people in the audience. Why the hell not? As long as no one's getting hurt, or, you know, we're not offending and disrespecting someone on a grand level, then why the hell not? I honestly think a great match, okay? Now, obviously, we would have to use some time travel because the Lovetts are from 1996, but this family, obviously, you know, is very versed in the art of time travel. I honestly think the Lovetts versus House Hardy, Matt Hardy and his family, I don't think Dave Meltzer would have enough stars for that match, to be honest with you.
That would definitely be a very interesting match, to say the least.
Oh yeah. But I love the Lovetts. I love Scott. I love Rad Pro. I love the creativity and the autonomy that comes with it. I love how Scott runs his shows. I love the passion he has for his promotion, his storylines, his wrestlers, his students. He's just a passionate person, and it rubs off on other people. And I am just very grateful that he gives my kids a chance to have fun. Because how many kids can go to school on Monday and tell their friends, oh, hey, by the way, I took a karate chop in a wrestling ring from a gangster granny, or I beat up a vegan whose tag team partner is a tree. You know, it's just one of those things, man. You know, so it's great, and it creates memories for me and my family, and that's what I'm most appreciated for.
I mean, and unfortunately for you, as the commentator said, the Wednesday Adam child turned face on you guys, no?
So her name is Monday because, you know, copyright infringement, and, you know, we figured no one likes Mondays and she likes nobody, so it's a perfect name.
Chloe.
So when we were crafting these characters, I wanted the black sheep, and one of our daughters, her nickname is Banana. Her name in wrestling in the locker rooms is Banana because she comes to the shows in a banana costume. So I knew that if we gave her a character, she would definitely run with it. And in the summer of last year, we did a show at Fight Life where it was me. It was the Monarchy versus Waving Curls with Banana Girl in the corner. And we did a spot, and let me tell you, man, like, she was the catalyst for the spot, and it got a standing ovation from the audience. So we knew if we gave her this character that she would run with it, and she absolutely has. She loves it. And, you know, it's really funny because some of the ideas we have for these characters, sometimes an 8-year-old is pitching me that idea, and I'm like, holy crap, that's a good idea. You know, so it's definitely, you know, it's definitely one of those things, man. But no, Monday Lovett is definitely a great character. She's a pain in the butt. Obviously, I don't encourage any children to treat their parents like she treats their parents. But, you know, again, she entertains. The people enjoy seeing her, and they come back for more. So couldn't ask for anymore.
Obviously, pro wrestling is very much, a family affair for you. Obviously, you're teaming with your wife right now. Your kids are some are faces, some are heels. But what would it kind of mean to you if you were able to tag team with one of your kids, properly?
I'm very adamant with my kids. I always say, if you want to get into wrestling, me and your mother will gladly do what's necessary to make sure you get the proper, training, and you're able to sit under the living trees of some of the best in the area to really put the best foot forward if you decide to do this. But we're very much of the fact that, hey, listen, it's very important to go to school, go to college, have a plan in case wrestling doesn't work out for you, because that's what I had to do. That's what my wife had to do. And it's the reason we live in a big house and we do great things and I have a big family. It's because I did what was necessary, and, I made sure that one castle was good while I went over and tended to the other castle. I would absolutely love that. I think out of all my kids, we probably have two of them who really want to become pro wrestlers. And I'm 36 now, so one of those kids will be 18 maybe in about 5.5 years. So we'll see. I would absolutely love to do that. They're my kids, That's why I love doing the Lovetts so much, because it's an opportunity to do that. So, absolutely. It would mean a lot to me as a dad, because being a professional wrestler and having our kids come with us, they look at us like we're superheroes, like we're real life superheroes. So to be able to share that experience of having a match and putting it together and then executing, that would be a dream to me.
All right. I think it's time for BMT's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Oh my God. So this one always comes to mind. I don't know why, because it just attributes to the sometimes lack of common sense that I had as a younger performer. So we were coming home from a show in Connecticut, and we had a full car. It was me, my wife, and two of our photographer friends who come to shows, and then a wrestler out of California who was based out of New England for a while, Ray Kejimura. And we were dropping off one of our friends in Rhode Island, and I took the exit, and there was a deer in the middle of the exit. So I stopped. The deer stopped in the middle of the road, and I started flashing my high beams at it. And they was like, "What the hell are you doing?" I was like, "I'm giving him the go ahead. Go. He's not moving." So I get out my car, yell at him, I'm like, "Dude, I told you to go. Like, get a hint." And I get back in the car, and they're like, "Thomas, you ever heard of the phrase deer in headlights?" I was like, "Oh, what that means. Like, when you do that, the deer freezes because it's scared shitless." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And they're like, "So we just spent 30 minutes on this exit because the deer wouldn't move." I was like, "Well, whatever, guys. McDonald's is on me." So, yeah. So there was another time where we were coming home from an ROH TV taping at the ECW arena. Eddy was performing, and we had crashed at his house the night after a show one night, and he was telling us how it was going, and we tagged along with him. And this is when ROH was on HDNet, so like Seth Rollins and Bryan Danielson had a one-on-one match there. So that was where independent wrestling was, the talent roster was. So a bunch of us were going back to New York from Pennsylvania. And it was me, Eddy, and my wife in one car, and Sarah Del Rey and Claudio Castagnoli in another car. So we were following behind them, and Claudio, who was driving, stops in the middle of the highway in New York. There was no other cars on the highway, and we're like, "What the heck's going on?" So we hit the brakes and we go around him, and we noticed there was a tire in the road. So we thought nothing of it, continued going. And when we got to where we were, I was like, "Claudio, why did you stop in the middle of the highway?" He's like, "Oh, there was a tire there. I honked at it, but it didn't move." And I was like, "Sure, you're a foot taller than me. I'm not going to question anything you do. Great, go for it." So yeah, so It's funniest things happen when you least expect it.
But I mean, at least on your side of things, deers can actually move.
Oh yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, no, I turn my lights off when I see a deer. I'm like, go, brother, I get the point. Go.
All right. Definitely some bizarre adventures to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, can you tell us about your Funko Pop collection?
Oh yeah, that was we attribute that to my ADHD, hyperfocus. That started me and my wife in 2019 for my birthday. Went to go see the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, and we showed up like an hour early because we expected dinner to be longer. So we were walking around, ended up at a Newberry Comics, and I bought a bunch of Funko Pops, and I was like, and I knew about them, but my wife's always like, "You're not going to get those things. They look silly. You're an adult." And I was like, well, if I have number 95 of the set, I got to get the other ones. And it went from like 1 to 2 pops to thousands of pops, thousands. Literally, I was smuggling pops into the house and my wife wouldn't see me. So like the toy community now, how it is, like, I always get a kick out of when you see like, when I would watch Matt Cardona's YouTube videos, and Chelsea would be like, more toys. Yeah, that's how my life was. I literally would leave buy a crap load of pops, instantly regret it when I left because I'm like, my wife's going to kill me. Leave it in the car, wake up at 3:30 in the morning, smuggle it into the house, and then she'd go upstairs because I had our entire 3rd floor of our house with my collection. She would say, "This looks bigger than I remember." I said, "I don't know what you're talking about. You're going crazy. It looks the same to me." And then once I realized it was taking up a 3-room 3rd floor, I was like, "Oh, she's gonna notice." So yeah, no, it's just something I enjoy to do, something I like to do, and keeps me occupied and focused. And listen, my mom didn't take me to the toy store enough as a kid, so it's just my way of enjoying adulthood and childhood at the same time.
No, I completely get it. I have a large collection of action figures, so I'm not going to judge. What's your favorite Funko that you have, or just what you have in your collection?
So I'm big on collecting. So I love superheroes, love Pokemon, obviously love wrestling. So I think my favorite pop would have to be I was able to get my hands on a one of the original Spider-Man releases. Like, it cost me a pretty penny, but it was when Funkos were first coming out and coming big. So I was able to get my hands not only on this original Spider-Man Funko Pop, but also the entire line. And then, so that's like one of my favorites. And then another one that I absolutely love is I have the full set of the cast of Big Bang Theory in their Justice League Halloween costumes. That was a pain in the butt to get, but I was able to get it from a reseller in mass. Just because I love my favorite TV show is Big Bang Theory. I love superheroes and comics and Marvel and DC and all that. So yeah, so I would say, it's collecting toys and hunting down toys is kind of, it's a hobby, but it's also kind of a sport in itself. So yeah, so those were pretty hard to get, but once I got my hands on those, I was pretty excited.
What do you have your eyes on right now? What are you looking at getting?
So I've kind of put the Funko Pop collecting on hold a little bit. I'm really more into collecting more superhero memorabilia. So kind of like, the movie props, like the superhero helmets. What I honestly really, and I still am trying to convince my wife, is I want to get like the life-size statues. I said, how awesome would it be if somebody opened our front door and there was a life-size Batman right there? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like nothing says success more like having a $10,000 life-size Batman statue in your front foyer of your house. It's taken some work. It might take a couple of years, but yeah, no, I really, I really just, like I just started collecting like, Stormbreaker, Mjolnir, and all the Captain America shields. So I'm kind of trying to expand on that collection. But right now it's just, I'm trying to focus a little more on that before I go back into the Pops, because when I go back into the Pops, it's just pure calamity. It's not just one or two, it's like 100 or 200.
No, I get that. And I feel like you and me are like on the same vibe. I'm the same way about Star Wars memorabilia. I have the helmets, I have the lightsabers, I have Darth Maul's lightsaber. And like one of my biggest, wish list items is a life-size Darth Maul statue.
Yeah, oh yeah, that would be so. Like I have the life-size Grogu that came out once the Mandalorian hit, and that was like a $400 piece. So that was pretty cool to have. But yeah, I would just love. I'm a big like theme park guy. So like when you go to like Universal Studios, Orlando, and they have the life-size Hulk statues or whatever, I'm like, oh, that would be so amazing. So yeah, no, my father recently passed away, and he was a huge Trekkie. So one of the things I'm trying to do is, because my godson, my sister's youngest son, my dad left him his entire Star Trek collection, because my dad had the original ships, collectible ships from the 70s, 80s, 90s. So he left that to him. So it's pretty cool. So I'm going to try to start my Star Trek collection, just so, I have a little bit to remember my dad by. But yeah, no, man, I definitely, I definitely want to get into some more memorabilia collection and kind of grow that.
All right. It seems like you and me are probably going to need bigger houses.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Now, can you tell us about Dad Bod to Fit Father podcast?
Oh, so yeah, that was something that I did. Kind of got stopped by COVID. So yeah, I, during the time I was away from the business, I kind of blew up to a big old guy. I was about 305 pounds. Got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. So, I had a really big turnaround. When I was diagnosed with diabetes, it will be 5 years ago this month, was 305 pounds. And then, literally it scared the hell out of me, because I was on the brink of death, from what my doctor told me. So literally, 4 months later, I was 196 pounds. And it was literally just the antithesis of a lifestyle change. So, I was talking to a buddy of mine who's very big into writing and screenwriting and just like overall content creation. And he said, you have a great story. You should put it out there. And we tried it for a little bit, but COVID struck and I got sick with COVID. My family got sick, so we had to put it on hold. I mean, I love doing the podcast, but it was kind of my way to put my story, if it could motivate anyone out there. And, I don't know if I'll start it up again, because, I've kind of enjoyed my version of a dad bod now. So it's great.
I mean, there's other things you can podcast about. I mean, we've just been talking about our collections right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And yeah, fantastic story, but I would be careful about making it into a movie, because odds are The Rock is going to want to be the main character.
Works for me, brother. I'll take those royalty checks any day of the week.
We'll put a pin in that conversation for the moment.
Yeah, we'll get back to it.
Can you tell us about your love of Boy Meets World?
Oh, I love Topanga. If you were raised in the 90s and you didn't have a crush on Kelly Kapowski, Kimberly the Pink Ranger, or Topanga, you didn't have a soul. So absolutely love Boy Meets World, specifically Topanga, and my generation isn't surprised. And to find out she's a massive wrestling fan is even cooler. So, maybe she shows up to a local, New England independent wrestling show, and I could awkwardly stare at her and tell her how much I love her, for the entire night. So, yeah, it is what it is.
So it wasn't specifically the show. It was just Topanga in general.
Oh, I love the show. Boy Meets World was an awesome show. But, it gets to a point where as you get older, you're like, I really just watched that show because, Topanga. Just one of those things.
I gotcha. Can you tell us about conversations with my wife?
Oh, so we've always been told from like people in wrestling or our friends, like you and your family should have like your own sitcom or your own reality TV show. Because literally, if I was to tell a stranger, they'd think I'd be BSing them. But people who know us know this is actually what happens in our life. So a lot of times when this absurdity happens, I post it on social media, and I started calling it Conversations with My Wife, and it kind of hit on in our friend groups and kind of grew, kind of expanded from there. To the point where people now tell me when I see them, they're like, hey, when are you going to start posting like that again? And I still kind of do. But, every once in a while, you got to keep your private life private. So, and every once in a while, my wife, sometimes is like, if you post that again, I will kill you. So, sometimes it's a safety issue. So, it's just something, I love my wife. She is my best friend, love of my life. I've been with her for 18 years this year. So, she makes me happy. We create great memories, and, I love sharing that with people we find close to us. So.
All right. Well, that brings us to the colossal question. Let's say they're making a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on your movie soundtrack?
My Sacrifice by Creed, Kiss from a Rose by Seal, and Dick in a Box by Lonely Island. And you can tell that's not the first time somebody's asked me that question, because I had those answers on the ready.
Okay, like the first 2, like I completely get, but like the last one, it did come out of nowhere.
It did. Oh, the reason why is I've been trying to convince. So me and the wife I started dabbling in it, but I kind of convinced her to dabble in it. So we started doing a lot more of like the tribute gear. So like last year I had like my custom Razor Ramon gear. I came out with my custom Rated R Superstar Edge gear. And then we started doing a lot of Game of Thrones and House of Dragon themed gear for the Monarchy. And we just recently debuted our Wicked gear that was inspired by the Wicked movie. So I've been trying to convince her. I said, hey, for one of the Halloween shows we do, because last year we dressed up as the Globo Gym Cobras for Fight Life from Dodgeball. I said, dude, one of these years we should just do Justin Timberlake and Andy Samberg, Dick in a Box. And she was like, I am absolutely not wearing a Christmas box around my waist and convincing people my junk's in there. And she was like, it's kind of hard because I don't have one of those, Tomas. I was like, oh, it's the absurdity of it all. So yeah, so that's one thing I'm working on. Hopefully I can convince her to do it.
Okay. Well, now that we have the soundtrack down, everybody knows you get the soundtrack first, then you write the script, and then you go to casting. Who plays you? And you can't say yourself because you are obligated to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo.
So who plays me? Oh, man, so that's really hard. So I would say, God, who would play me? Holy crap, that's a guy. I've never thought of that. So I'm trying to think some of my favorite movies. So I would definitely love the guy who played Schmidt on New Girl. I think Max Greenfield is his name. Or I would like, I know I'm not British or anything, but it'd be pretty cool for Tom Holland to play me. He has a great American accent, so yeah. And he's my favorite Spider-Man, so yeah.
Okay. Now that we have you casted, every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people with significant meaning to you and your story that would be in your movie, and who would play them?
So it would definitely be my wife.
Of course.
And she would get played probably by Salma Hayek, just because, clearly I have a hot wife in life, so it has to translate to the movie screen, and it's freaking Salma Hayek, so why not?
Of course.
I would also say Jose Perez has to be in my movie because he's a huge part of my career and my family life. He's like one of the people who like literally plays a huge part of both lives. There's not too many people who do that. Jose would definitely have to be played. God, oh man, I don't know the actor's name, but the guy who plays Phil Dunphy on Modern Family, just because he's both absurd and both a great family man. So yeah, and then the third person I would probably say would have to be my mom. Just she's my mom, and my mom would definitely be played by like a Susan Sarandon or like a Helen Mirren, just like a real strong female actress. So yeah, that would be the 3 people.
Okay. This is sounding like the actor from Modern Family is Ty Burrell.
Yes, that guy. That guy's great.
This is sounding like a great movie, a blockbuster to say the least. And you
Absolutely.
could pre-order the tickets now. Alright, onto a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
Greatest thing ever. Pineapple pizza is the greatest thing ever. If you don't agree with me, I will DM you my address and we can fight in the street. Greatest thing ever. Pineapple pizza is so... I'm Puerto Rican. Pineapple and ham on pizza is like a birthright. So good. My son loves it. My 8-year-old TJ loves it. Belongs on pizza. I don't want to hear it.
All right. So pro pineapple. You're ready to draw fist for it.
Yep.
All right. What's your spirit Pokemon?
Oh, Pikachu. All day Pikachu. Because he streams loyalty. And remember the Pokemon, the first movie, he got all these people together, bonded together through sadness of losing his buddy to bring them back to life. So Pikachu's a man. I love him.
Low-key, the most emotional movie of all time.
I cried during Pokemon, the first movie, that same scene.
I can't watch that movie without shedding at least one tear.
You know what I cried recently, just because I remember I cried like a baby in the theater, and it was so funny because we went on Veterans Day. That's in November. We went to the IMAX in Providence, and it was me and my girls, and it was literally a bunch of dads with their kids that day. And you just remember when it hit that scene, you just heard a bunch of sniffling, and when you looked around, you realized it was none of the kids; it was all the grown men. Black Panther 2, man. The first 5 minutes of that movie, freaking gets you. That funeral scene, and then at the end where that kid says, his dad was T'Challa. Dude, I lost it, man. Like, my daughter was talking to me. I was like, I can't talk to you right now. Literally, I can't. Like, I couldn't get words out. It's just so. That would have got, just because the backstory of him passing away and him not being very out in the open with that, but still working and putting out great freaking movies. Oh yeah, that was definitely one that within the first 5 minutes in the end, I was gone.
No, I definitely get it. Now we love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Doug? THUG.
I do not recall it off the top of my head. I know it because I know at the end when he says something, it makes no sense, and he referenced because he can't spell.
Would you like?
I don't know. Yeah, because I'm having a brain fart. It's gonna drive me nuts.
T is for terrible. H is for hell. U is for ugly, and G is for jail, 'cause a Doug can't spell.
See, I knew it. It's just, I have 900 other things on my mind, so, yeah.
No, we love the late, great Tracy Smothers, trying to keep the memory alive on the show.
Absolutely.
Weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview. Would you ever consider wrestling a Rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical Rock.
Yeah, as long as I'm compensated accordingly for it, sure. I wrestle with children, with my own children. So, I once wrestled in an inflatable dinosaur costume. Sometimes you got to put your ego aside and do what's best for the overall entertainment of the crowd.
Well, just for context, there's a wrestler named Psycho Mike that indeed wrestled a Rock.
Yes, I do remember that. He is the greatest hard cam worker in all of professional wrestling. That guy, the best.
That he is. King of wrestling inanimate objects.
Yes, the best.
On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Like I mentioned before, I got a lot more years behind me than I do have ahead of me, and I honestly think in 5 years I'll be really preparing to step away from professional wrestling. My twins will be 18 years old at the time. In the next 5 years, I see myself, in a good place in life overall, enjoying life, watching my kids grow, doing it with, my best friend, my wife, and just really being grateful for every moment that I have. We get one go around in life, and most recently, I was really reminded of the enormity of that. So, 5 years from now, I'll be, thanking the good Lord upstairs that he allowed me to wake up another day and really getting the most out of life.
And is there a match that you'd like people to check out or go out of their way to see after this interview?
I definitely check out that doghouse match. It's definitely a great match. We did it again for New England Ring Gladiators last year at the Madeira Feast, which is a huge Portuguese feast in New Bedford, our hometown. I've had a lot of good matches with people. I've wrestled old friends like JT Dunn and Danny Miles and Trigger the OG. I've wrestled new guys like Ichiban and Mortar and Landon Hale. Most recently, I had a match with Landon Hale that I was really proud of because I was able to get it in right before he left. But definitely, man, just go out of the way. The doghouse match would be a great one to watch. Me and the Monarchy versus Waves and Curls. We had a really good one with the Shooter Boys, a great team out of Jersey, Creative Pro. There's a lot of good stuff out there that, I'd love for people to enjoy. Those are just a few off the top.
And can we find them on YouTube?
Yeah, definitely YouTube. Absolutely. Yep.
Perfect. I will definitely grab those matches if they're on YouTube, and I will put a link to them in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox, for anybody that hasn't seen them, wants to see them, wants to re-see them after this interview.
Absolutely.
And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom.
Okay.
This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
Go ahead, shoot.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
AJ Styles.
Worst wrestler.
Mantard.
You're main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Roman Reigns.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
CM Punk.
Which one?
Cult of Personality. Living Color is the greatest band of all time.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
transparent.
We would have also accepted taste great on toast. Squash. Vegetable or fruit?
A vegetable. Yeah.
It is indeed a fruit. It has seeds. Tomato logic.
I don't eat it. I always get it confused with sweet potato sometimes, and it pisses me off. So yeah.
New Japan Pro Wrestler Taichi. His ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
So I wear a singlet, so I don't want my butt cheeks hanging out. So honestly, in wrestling, if anything's causing us not to focus on the wrestling, then we got to fix it. So yeah, no, keep your ass in your pants.
So full coverage.
Full coverage, brother.
And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
No, I don't go to supermarkets. A little thing called Instacart.
And that is the correct answer. And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Once again, where can we find you on social media and your merchandise?
The BMT 88 have all the information you need about where we'll be, our schedule, any merchandise, where you can find us next. Obviously, check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, so on and so forth.
And you don't have to go typing it into your Google machines. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox. Simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Buy a damn shirt. Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, both on YouTube and Castbox. This was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. Join us next Tuesday and Wednesday for new incredible interviews, and follow the show at Wrestling with E, both on X, Thread, and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. Follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, when I say wrestling wit, you say entertainment, okay?
Sounds good to me.
For our special guest BMT, Kaliko Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.